Well, thank you very much. Now, it's coffee time, I should say. So maybe to complement that, can we have our coffee pots refilled, because we're going to have a coffee conversation. And with that, I'm going to invite my brother Kenneth Barije, Managing Director, Mountain Harvest Coffee. Please put your hands together for him. Now, he is going to lead the discussion, and it's going to be very interesting. I said coffee time because we're now going to explore, apart from the investment benefits of coffee, apart from the investment benefits, we're also going to have a smell of it as we have it in the house. And to help him and do the discussion, we have Mrs. Perez Ochien. Hope I got it right. Please come join us. A round of applause for her, please. She's the Director, Sakuma Foods Innovation. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. James Shaw, Technical Sales Engineer, Alvin Blanche Development Company Limited here in the UK. James, thank you for coming. And Honourable Charles Bakabulinde. Your Honourable Sir, thank you very much for coming. Member of Parliament representing workers. So as I mentioned, not just a taste of the financial benefits of it, but that's also the industrial and worker relations bit of that. So my brother, Kenneth, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel, and good afternoon. I am Kenneth Barije. I am a coffee farmer, I'm a coffee exporter, and I drink a lot of coffee to support myself. I will try with my panel this afternoon to save some time so that we are able to catch up on the lost time. Do we have Paul Rock from the British Coffee Association? Apologies, Paul, but could you kindly, is the Executive Director of the British Coffee Association. As you well aware, Uganda is an economy that is supported by agriculture. Over 70% of But unfortunately, when you look at the number of imports that are coming from UK, we form a very small percentage. So what we are trying to discuss this afternoon is why are we not exporting more products to the UK? And what can we do to get products here? And I am fortunate that on the panel, we have people who have been working with standards, food safety standards. We have people working with machinery around agro-processing in Africa, including Uganda. We have the British Coffee Association. We would like to see more coffee coming. Just for your information, out of the $800 million that coffee brings into Uganda, UK is only giving us about 2 million. So there is huge potential and realized potential that I'm hoping this afternoon we can tap into. And then, of course, the Honourable Member of Parliament and his work in Parliament, his work with workers, and understanding what kind of regulatory framework we have in the country that could be supporting exporters and importers and producers to meet the standards in the UK. So allow me to start with the question to probably the Honourable. UK buyers have been complaining about some defects in the coffee that we have, including stones. So they say that coffee is not as clean as they should be getting. Do we have any regulatory framework provisions that you have in place, you've been implementing as a country, that could be help us meet the standards that they are looking for?
Thanks very much, dear moderator and the listeners. First of all, I think I want to create the picture more positive. First and foremost, we have got the National Coffee Act 2021. So the regulating framework is in place. The sensitization, and when we are looking about the quality of coffee, we are not looking at the coffee which is ready for exportation alone. Straight away, we start with the nursery. We start with how the coffee is being planted and looked after. The spacing of the holes and the seedlings, the collecting of the coffee and how it is dried. And this is what is ongoing, sensitizing the public. Now, and I've been hearing that our quality of coffee, as you have rightly said, is not so much attractive. It's not good. But let me give you some good figures. Among the global producers, you know very well the Brazil, Colombia, and Ethiopia, Uganda is number 9 among the global producers. And if the coffee was not good, and I think would be maybe number 100. But among, again, the coffee exporters, where Brazil and Vietnam are inclusive, Uganda is number 8. That tells that we just need to polish and improve a bit. And our colleagues from the UK and others would be attracted to come and import more coffee from our country. But otherwise, the regulatory framework is in place, the sensitization of the farmers is taking place, because traditionally, members could produce their coffee the way they want. But now, because of that quality demand, we are going down. Personally, I'm also a farmer, because I have to know how to handle the seedlings, have to know how to space it, have to know how to get it when it is ready, and how to dry it and keep it. These are some of the standards that have now been improved. So basing on that, I think our good importers must be well assured that the coffee that comes from Uganda is good. We are only competing with those first-class countries.
Thank you, Honorable. As an exporter, when I buy coffee, the only leverage I have on a farmer is provide better price. That's the only way I can influence the quality the farmer is giving me. Can a farmer get into trouble for mismanaging quality according to the laws of the country?
By the way, as we talk now, we have got the UCDA, which is mandated to regulate the coffee quality in the country. And it's now coming in to see that much as some farmers may be not sensitized to the extent that we need, but before they buy your coffee, there are certain regulations or standards that you have to fulfill. And that's why it is coming in. And we're empowering it, and we're continuing to saying that since traditional coffee has been our product, the best way we can do is to add more quality and emphasize to the farmers that if we are to compete with the outside world, there is no shortcut apart from quality.
Thank you, Honorable. Let me go to Paul. Paul, I made a claim that there is no coffee here because of quality. Is it true? Is it an issue of quality or supply chain issues? Why do we see more coffee in the UK supermarkets from Kenya, from Ethiopia, and less from Uganda?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's actually a combination of the two. I mean, as you've already heard, quality is a key component, and the UK market has seen a growth in the specialty sector in the last 10 to 15 years, and there you often have a more direct trade. Quality becomes even more of an important point, but quality is important across the board. I think if we look back at the trade figures, certainly over the last years, we did see a drop-off in exports from Uganda to the UK. I think if we actually look at the figures, certainly the figures that we see for 2022, which are now full-year figures, we are back to the levels in terms of tonnage, certainly, that we saw in probably 2013. And that actually adds an extra £1 million to the figure that you were talking about to start with. So 2022 is just over 3 million. But, you know, there is still the opportunity to go further. I mean, it's very interesting. About 18 months ago, we helped to coordinate an event with the High Commission in Kigali. and we brought together some specialty coffees, I think around about half a dozen. They were roasted in Kigali. Half of that roast was then shipped overnight into London, to just only a few miles away from here. And then we ran a cupping session simultaneously with 6 experts in Kigali and 6 in London. And it was extremely interesting that the results from both of those sessions were very close together. So the quality was not an issue at all in the samples that people were cupping on that occasion. So the quality, certainly Uganda has the ability to produce quality and high quality Arabicas. I think on the back of that, it is then about having the conversations and building the relationships within the supply chain. You know, unfortunately, it doesn't matter what commodity you're talking about. You can't simply expose it to the market and then hope that you're going to get the price that you want. You have to start to build relationships with your customer to understand more clearly what they're looking for. Because whether it's a specialty market or whether it's the market generally, quality is a key component. So, you know, the opportunity is there and Uganda has the ability to deliver that. I think it is about taking some of the issues that have been talked about before and making sure they're not the exception, but they are the rule. And then I think, you know, we start to see no real barriers in Uganda improving its flow of coffee into the UK. At the end of the day, I think we're very clear. The UK imports coffee from around about 50 different countries. We want to keep importing coffee from that number of countries. We don't want to drop anybody off. It's not to our advantage to see that diversity of supply diminish at all. So, you know, we need to keep all of our origins producing and delivering into the UK.
Thank you, Paul. I'm sure the government team is happy to note that coffee produced roasted at origin still came with its quality integrity. And that could be a huge opportunity for us. We know that our President Museveni, has been promoting and asking coffee exporters to add value at origin. So I'm glad to hear that there is potential. But we also know that for you to bring roasted coffee into an economy like the UK, there are very serious food safety standards that you have to meet. And this allows me to go to Mrs. Perezi. I know that you've been successful bringing ready-to-consume products into the UK, and I would like to request you to share lessons that we need to focus as a country if we are to continue tapping into the ready-to-consume market in the UK.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I'll look at it from 2 perspectives, as a consumer and a retailer or a distributor of a particular product imported. So, as has been said, quality is key. You know, consumption and customers want to put quality first. But I think what we are failing to understand is the global perspective. You know, we do not live in isolation, whether we are importing coffee from Uganda, you're growing coffee in Uganda and you want to export it to UK or other global markets. There are other things that are coming into play that every coffee farmer or processor or exporter as a middleman or whatever you want to call them really need to put into perspective. And that is, first and foremost, what are the green skills? We've heard of all these meetings about COP22, COP27, COP28, I don't know where we are now. And there's a big push on sustainability. So the consumer trend now is looking at doing good. And they do not have that opportunity to be the growers, but they want to know that they're consuming a product that is doing good. And so they look at sustainability in 2 concepts. Are you paying your farmers a fair price? That is one. But they're also looking at sustainability in terms of your process and farming methods. And there's one thing that I want to raise, and I think I've raised this before in our previous meetings, is that the lack of green skills and innovation in everything we are doing from any part of, I say, for example, third country, Uganda we are talking about today, is a key barrier to accessing new markets. So when you talk about, say, for example, the technology for fermenting coffee, look at the amount of water we use for fermenting coffee. And you're coming into a world where they're going to ask you, tell us how you're using natural resources sustainably. Water is one of them. Energy is another. And human skills is another. So to what extent is your product involving innovation in terms of improving the process methods? And I want to mention one example that I mentioned before. We don't need to ferment coffee using water anymore. There are technologies that exist, like using goji berries. I don't know if somebody has explored that. How do we make your product attractive to the trend of the market that you're looking for? And also there's the issue of what do you do with the waste that comes from your processing of coffee? Big industries or upcycled products are becoming a trend globally. Are we using the waste from coffee to upcycle to produce something so we have a complete circularity of the coffee process? And the consumer is looking at this. They are very knowledgeable. All you need to do is touch a QR code and they have all the information in their hands. So these are some of the barriers, waste management, upcycling, the technologies we are using. And all this is embedded in the fact that we are not allowing producers to be innovative, to come up with solutions that are not necessarily science-driven and knowledge transferred from Europe, which is the market you're trying to compete against, but in empowering the individual smallholder farmers and their processors and everybody along the supply chain to be innovative so that you're coming up with products that are unique. Coffee becomes an ingredient. Coffee is no longer just a beverage. It's an ingredient to medical products. We have mushroom coffee. I brought samples from him with some of this. So coffee can be used innovatively, not just as a beverage. So, but this only comes with science and innovation and how the local universities are building all this in continuous research so that you're coming up with new ideas. Why do you want to do what other people have already done? You're going to break through in the market with new ideas. So use your coffee to come up with new ideas. And I think this is a big barrier. Innovate, come up with new products that people have not heard before. It's still coffee, but it's an ingredient and a raw material. It's not just for beverage and other stuff. So shall I stop for them?
Thank you. And allow me now to invite Mr. Otto Cannon to join the panel. Mr. Otto Cannon is a UK representative to the World Sustainability Organization. Okay, thank you. I've been informed that Otto will make a presentation after the panel. But let me go to James. James works with the company that produces machinery and systems for processing, which we know as Africa, as Uganda, aims at increasing products processed at home. It's a huge opportunity. So I would like to request James, first of all, start by talking about briefly the products that you do produce and sell in Uganda or Africa, but then also help us talk about why we have low uptake of processing technology and systems in countries like Uganda and what we can do to change that.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so as I said, my name is James. I work for a company called Alvin Blanche. We're a manufacturer of agricultural process machinery. So machinery basically from the post-harvest and processing of the equipment. So increasing the quality and increasing the quality. Increasing the quality of the grains post-harvest after being harvested. So we've been exporting into Africa for the last 40 years, in particular Uganda for that period as well. Because we've been exporting across Africa for so long and into several countries, both in East, West and Southern Africa, We've got that experience of understanding the farmers and how the different environments the different countries have in terms of their agricultural practices. So, for example, in terms of small scale and large scale, we've found that Southern Africa, we've got quite a lot of more large commercial farmers with lower human input and more mechanization, whereas countries in your West Africa and countries in East Africa like Uganda, there's a lot more human input and less mechanization. And as a result, sometimes there is an issue of quality that stops the small-scale farmers getting the best value from their products. So in terms of why there's been such a low uptake, sometimes one is education. Because in Uganda especially, there's lots of small-scale farmers. The image is that agricultural mechanization equipment is only suitable for the larger scale farmers. So therefore, higher upfront costs. The smaller farmer can't, purchase that sort of equipment and invest into that to help, either increase their production or increase the quality of their products to get higher money for their grains. But from what we've found, that's not necessarily true. Because we, as a company, we have a full range of equipment. So basically, from larger government-style grain storage facilities, all the way down to your small-scale, family-run farm in rural Uganda or rural Africa. So we have the range of equipment and also the range of budgets to suit that sort of, their individual stage of their agricultural, development or as a farmer producer. So I think mainly, it's that sort of education to say that you see these larger mechanization is only geared up for the larger producers, where in actual fact it's not. There's opportunities for the smaller producers to increase their quality, increase their the mechanization for a very relatively low capital cost.
Thank you, James. As a coffee processor, one of the reasons I'm not buying your machines, or any machine for that matter, it's the cost of money. Money in my country, you're talking about 20% and above interest per annum, and that makes it difficult for me as a processor to invest in that kind of technology. That brings me to a question, Honourable Member of Parliament. We've heard about the Trade Frontier Fund that the government is planning to put in place to finance exports. I would like to ask you to share with us, what is that fund about? Who will access it? Can the Ugandans in the diaspora come and access it? So kindly share with us more about the Trade Frontier Fund.
Well, I may say, first and foremost, let me talk about coffee, if I'm talking about that fund. I don't recall that we have a coffee fund for exporting. What I know, those who are exporting coffee, they borrow money from the financial institutions, including banks, at commercial rates. And they can be facilitated in different ways. But when it comes to the general trend of what we are talking about, the fund, yes, the idea was floated and adopted. I think about $10 million was put aside. What is waiting for now is the guidelines on how to implement it. So that goes ahead to answer your question of who should access. That will qualify according to the regulations, which are not yet finalized.
Thank you, Honourable. You've talked about the availability of finance in the local banks, and Honourable, we are borrowing at 20-24%, or if I am lucky to borrow from the government bank, UDB, at 12%. You also know, if we are to speak about coffee, that 80% of coffee in Uganda is bought and exported by multinationals. These multinationals are borrowing money at 4% or even below that in their domicile economies. So you have 80% of the coffee purchased with money that is very affordable. We are buying coffee from the same farmer. We are exporting coffee to the same market-controlled pricing. How do you expect us as Ugandan investors to succeed within such an economy?
I think you have raised a very pertinent question and which needs our putting heads together. And that's why I'm saying the idea of the fund was floated, adopted, and a certain figure of about $10 million was put aside. What has been remaining now is the guidelines. I think we need to facilitate that so that we can assist the local exporter or producer to compete with others who will be borrowing money at a lesser interest rate from other countries.
Okay, thank you. I would like to go to Paul. You heard the Commissioner General of URA talking about the priority sectors that attract incentives. And top among them, it's agro-processing. Also, the president of the country has been convincing all of us to stop exporting green and producing, adding value in our country, well knowing, and we agree with him, that will create jobs. It will also increase the value when you think of price per kilo. Now, to you, as a member of the British Association in a consuming country, I'm just putting a straight question to you. Is it feasible? What do the market, what is the market demanding?
Is it feasible? Yes. I think the question then is at what scale? A lot of roasters roast near the point of consumption because they can A, maintain the quality, and B, they can reduce the sort of the time between roasting and point of consumption, again coming back to quality. I think certainly when you look at other sectors, and I have only relatively recently come into coffee. I've spent most of my life in other parts of agriculture. When you look at other sectors, the successful ones are where they are operated in conjunction with a partner. Now, that partner may be a UK-based company, maybe an EU-based company, maybe a US-based company. I think there are opportunities there to look at how you can work with a partner who is then satisfied that you are delivering to the specification that both they want and their customers want. But I think, what you can't lose sight on in all of this, certainly from a UK market, is if you're looking at the products that are eventually going into the multiple retail sector, then that multiple retailer has a very close eye on the sort of quality and has great expectations, and their expectations are largely met by maintaining that sort of quality control where, essentially where they can see it. So it is possible, but I think people need to have a clear understanding of why they are doing it, what their ultimate aim is, what their market is, what else they're doing to ensure that they can meet all of the parameters that market is looking for. I think the other point, of course, is, the UK consumption per head of coffee is around about 2 kilos a year. It is well below the European average, but it's probably double the Ugandan coffee consumption. So, for a lot of origin countries, the other question is how do you improve the value by essentially improving the size of the market in your own country as well. So I think that is another part of the discussion about generating value and keeping it within the country.
Thank you, Paul. The opportunity on partnership is very interesting, and before we close the panel discussion, I'll be requesting one of the roasters called Master Roasters in the UK to comment about such opportunities. But also, as Ugandans who are doing business in the UK, you're now hearing about these opportunities for partnership. Allow me to go back to James. James, we would like to see an increase in the reach of the extensive product range that you have or other processors that have. We would like your advice, given your experience in the Africa market, especially to our government, to our MPs, to our business community. What should we be focusing on?
Yes, thank you. So, yes, as I said a minute ago, because we've got such an extensive range of equipment from your large-scale government-style silo facilities all the way down to your smaller local, farmers, it's important, especially at the lower range of, equipment sizes and small-scale farmers, is to allow them to operate on a wide range of crops. Half the year they might do maize, half the year they might do sorghum or beans. So it's important that the equipment provided to them is not just suitable for one crop, but you've got a variety of different options they can use, and that allows more options for them. And also allows them to use the machine more often. So you're not just using it for one season of the year; you're maximising the output of the equipment and getting your money's worth as well for the farmer. And also because of the equipment that we provided, or have provided in Uganda and East Africa, because you've got that local support as well, we can provide that education to the farmers. If they've only produced maize before, our engineers in the country can show them how they can adapt the machines and how calibrate them to work with beans, for example, to help them educate and get more value out of their products as well.
Okay.
And because we've got so many different, styles of system in Uganda, there is that ability to, take one farmer group to that particular small scale group, or that sort of medium-sized farmer group to the larger facility, to see where they could, in 5 years' time, they could be going from their medium-sized production facility all the way up to more and a larger silo facility. So there is scope of opportunity for expansion of farmers in Uganda.
Thank you, James. Last question to Mrs. Perezi. It's about pricing. So for coffee farmers in Uganda, we are very fortunate in an unfortunate way. The Ugandan coffee gets paid about 80, sometimes 90% of the FOB price. So the trader, the exporter, transporter is only sharing about 20 to 10%. Now, unfortunately, this is a high portion of a very low price when you compare to the coffee prices in Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Burundi. Now, my question to you, Perezi, it's how can our agriculture sector improve its positioning so that we start attracting prices that can make agriculture profitable and viable for smallholder farmers?
If you're talking agriculture in general, I would assume you're talking about all agricultural produce.
That's good.
That's a tough one because every product has its own, I would say, post-harvest handling technologies. It's got different people along the supply chain. But if I was to talk blanketly, just trying to get products into other markets, a lot of it has already been talked about here today. You start from processing equipments that are certified. The farmers or the processors are trained to use those equipment. So they are not just operators of the machine, but they're also technicians. So they can work with the manufacturers of the machine to modify them to their suitability, for their different products. And then you're talking about supply chain management, where the whole supply chain understand that they will only exist and succeed as a chain, as it says. So individuals, because what I've seen a lot of people when they come to promote different products like coffee, everybody is trying to push their brand individually. So at some point we're talking about Uganda coffee, and then we'll be talking about some coffee, maybe Gorilla coffee or another coffee. And so every brand is pushing into this market with very limited resources for marketing. So at some point, all the coffee growers and all the other different producers would have to come together to collaborate and agree that we are going to have one message to enter into the market. And so they begin to empower themselves, to align themselves to be a force into the market they're coming into. And then I've talked also about managing the processing and quality control. A lot of people and a lot of farmers or a lot of people who are trying to export assume that testing in the laboratory is what defines quality. Actually, the quality starts from farming all the way on the handling until you process, you package, and in whatever form that your consumer or your buyer wants it. So market knowledge is also important. So you start from one end, what does the market want? What can we produce? And in between here. And in this way, then you're going to be able to control and manage prices. Because at this moment in time, even with export costs and all the wars and the problems, it's almost impossible to predict what your prices are going to be. Because the movement of goods has become almost unpredictable. We have the issue of energy and petrol and production. So the world in itself has become unpredictable, but you want to be able to manage your prices so that you can compete. And this will require collaboration and understanding of the market, the production, and the whole process so that you are able to manage your costs.
Thank you.
And an active working, as I said before, I keep defining this and I keep insisting that involvement of the local academic is really important. Because when you talk about simple things like even supply management, leave alone technology and innovation, you need the input of the academic sector to enable them to do things differently, reskill themselves and do things differently.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Before we take the questions, I would like to alert the Commissioner General of URA. You provide a lot of incentives for people who come to invest in Uganda. Every year, a small company spends 100,000 marketing Ugandan products outside Uganda. So as they ask questions, I would like you to comment and tell us the incentives that you provide for us who go and spend to market Uganda, just after the two, three questions.
Thank you very much. My name is Robert Kovma. A few years ago, Uganda left the ICO, I think in protest. Has that been in vain, or has there been any progress due to that? Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And that Honourable will take that question.
When finished.
Please take three more.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Linda Bond. I'm from Uganda, Jumani. I have a farm actually in Jumani, and I assume I'm one of the first people who bought threshing equipment, crop thresher from Alvin Blanc. And we have been in progress since 2014. We invested quite a bit, tried to mechanize and other things. But my question is, one is about VAT, because we paid quite a lot of VAT when we imported equipment to Uganda, like a low bed pickup that would work in the farm. Of course, we didn't pay for tractors and caterpillars to clear the land. But because we're here, I'm just asking a question as to how, because we are training people in Ajumani. We have a farm, we are growing rice, maize, and we are actually threshing the maize on the farm. But we are just asking a question how the government can actually point us to the right place and how we can link with Alvin Blanc and also promote the farming there. And the second thing is about how can we claim back our VAT that will go to URN. We paid quite a hefty amount because I know probably there's no self-assessment or VAT returns or something like that. I would like to understand more about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
I think mine will go to the British Coffee Association. A simple Google search will show you that Switzerland is a major coffee exporter. I don't think they have any farms in Switzerland. And in Uganda, some of the big players are, companies like Volcafe or Sukafina, who have spent $10, $20 million to invest in Uganda, buy the coffee, process it, grade it, and then export. Would it be possible that some of the coffee that is finding its way into Britain is actually exported by Switzerland, but originating from Uganda? Thank you.
And it just occurred to me that us leaving ICO, the best person to respond is the buyer. Is it a problem if we are not members of ICO?
I'm just trying to determine how honest I should be in giving this answer. I mean, from my own point of view, I think all coffee producing countries should be in ICO and helping to push change. I appreciate that ICO has sometimes been likened to the proverbial oil tanker. It takes an awful long time for it to turn around. I think my experience of certainly parts of ICO in the last 18 months have suggested that some of the criticisms that have been aimed of it are being tackled, and we are seeing a more proactive organisation than we have in the past. And I think there are certainly desires within ICO to go further and to do more. Clearly, it has to manage the expectations of the rest of its membership, which are obviously all of the countries. So I don't think it has been in vain. It may be that some of the issues that Uganda raised have actually been dealt with and would have been dealt with anyway, potentially. But I would certainly much prefer to see Uganda coming back into ICO as soon as possible. I may as well pick up the Swiss question as well while I'm here. Yeah, an awful lot of coffee goes through Switzerland, not physically, but certainly on paper. And a lot of the companies that are based there, in grains, in oilseeds, Geneva, Switzerland is a central hub for some of the big trading houses in the world for a lot of commodities. So in answer to your question, yes, it is. I think it's inevitable that some of the coffee from Uganda is essentially, certainly from a paper point of view, moving through, and those figures have increased again in the last few years. But it's it's a paper chase. Yeah, I agree with you. There are not many coffee farmers in Switzerland that I'm aware of.
I just want to supplement.
Yeah, thank you.
On what he's
and
saying.
as you supplement, talk about. You've been telling us that UCDA is going to the ministry, so it's also linked to ICO. Everything is coming out of everything.
You know what is very interesting? That when we liberalized the economy, we went wholesale. And we did not put limits and stringency to particular countries on how we are going to liberalize the economy on different products. Now, coming back to what he was saying about Switzerland looking to be one of the great producers, I'll give you a very simple scenario related to coffee. I happen to be on the committee of COSASA in Uganda. We went to Mombasa and visited all the stores of tea. And you know very well that Uganda has got the best tea products. We were so shocked that even tea that was coming from Uganda was bagged and labeled sister countries, ready for exportation. So when I hear that Switzerland can export something that it has got from Uganda, it is possible until we come with new technologies to limit that. I'm not saying that it is saying so, but it is possible. Now, coming to the question that you have asked me, which is a bit tricky and interesting. When my colleague Madam was talking about coffee, and you are saying that we should look at coffee as a global perspective, not only as a beverage, but as a product can be used in different items. When you look at use CDA being in the Ministry of Agriculture and being streamlined, first and foremost, the current law gives the mandate to use CDA to be the only regulator of quality coffee in the country. But at the same time, the government has got the right to change the current law. And according to the government, when it was talking of merging different entities, not only UCDA, it was looking about reducing the cost and avoiding duplication. But here is the trick. UCDA is concerned about the quality. And in order to merge it or to streamline it, you need to repeal the law first. That is also another process. So my question, to answer you, the answer is yes and no. If it is being streamlined and you maintain the quality and the motivation of the human resource, and you achieve what you want to achieve at the international market, then streamlining will not have a problem. But if it is going to be streamlined and be embedded within the ministry with a lot of other assignments, it may lose the quality that we need.
Thank you. The government chief whip is here. you're hearing they want us to do better. It's not the time for us to compromise even where we are. We had Matthew Mills from Master Roasters. There was a question about Switzerland, getting coffee from there. Why do we see roasters preferring to get coffee from re-exporting countries and not directly from producing countries?
Hi, good afternoon. I don't really think this is an issue or a problem because your export registration numbers from Uganda straight to the UK remain clean either way. It's just a financial transaction between a head office in Switzerland. The physical transportation comes straight into the UK, so it's not a re-export. So I don't think that really confuses the number at all.
Okay, thank you. So that we shouldn't be worried that Ugandan coffee is coming through a Swiss company. We hope that the price that the UK buyer is paying to the Swiss buyer who is buying coffee from Uganda is still favoring the Ugandan producer. Commissioner General, as the last comment.
Thank you very much. First question was on the branding company that is doing a great job for Uganda. What benefit? One, I've already mentioned the benefits that every company will take advantage of, whether they are doing branding or any other thing. We'll allow all your expenses and will not charge you where you've not earned an income for a period. However, depending on the platforms and channels you are using to brand, there are some exemptions under ICT, and that is not to advise you to make yourself ICT if you're not. But I know that some of the companies that are using ICT platforms can get further exemptions under that channel. So we could look at your business model, see the channels you're using, and advise you on what else you can take advantage of. But even without being more ICT inclined, you can take advantage of the general benefit. And we definitely appreciate the branding because the beauty and the potential of our nation, the beauty and the potential of our nation is great. What is missing is selling out this information to the public. I studied here about 20 years ago, and I remember every time I walked into somebody and in an exchange I mentioned I'm from Uganda, the only brand they knew about Uganda then was Idi Amin. Is he still alive? Now some people have stayed in that historical hangover. Idi Amin has since gone to be with the Lord or wherever he could have gone. Uganda has been on a very positive trajectory, and it is one of the most favorable investment destinations. So keep up the good job. Now, there was a question on VAT refund, and I will get more if I miss or I didn't get. But if the issue is a delayed refund, it could be for one or two reasons. One of the reasons is before we refund, we are required by the law to do an audit. So I would like to hear from you, has an audit been done on your company? If it has been done and the refund has not come through, then that is some delay on our part, which can also be caused by either insufficient, because we have a limited refund budget. But as we improve the accuracy of our ledgers, the refunds will be more automatic. So I will pick from you, my sister, the issue, and I'll look at your specific company and we'll be able to make good your refund. It is your right. VAT is a consumer tax. You collect, you pay, and the difference is what you pay. So you collect and you spend, the difference is what you pay. So if you have collected less and paid more, it is your right to be refunded, and I'll gladly look at your case and give you a feedback.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Lastly, for the Ugandans based here who would like to invest in coffee, there is an opportunity now in the country where the government is providing, will contribute 30% of your costs. If you have 10 to 20 acres of land that you're willing to grow coffee, above 20 acres, you will get 40%. This opportunity runs I think applications are due end of this month. So please, if you're Ugandan and you have some land in Uganda, make sure you go and invest in coffee production. Please join me to thank our panel this afternoon for sharing with us. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we're looking at what the future holds, how we can survive when it is that we're not able to work anymore, beyond our working age. How do we look back and feel satisfied rather than feeling that we're kind of disappointed? When you go to many countries, especially from our part, there's always the formal sector where the government policies and everything provide for social security. What about the many that are in the informal sector? What is happening? The National Social Security Fund is headed by Dr. Peter Kimbowa. Now this is a man of many colors. He's asked me not to do something, but I'm trying to be very obedient and obedient young son of his. Doctor, thank you for coming, first of all. Doctor is the board chairman of the NSSF. He is a board member of Private Sector Foundation. He is a board member of the Jubilee Alliance. He is a board member of ESCOM Uganda. He is with the Trade and Investment Advisory of Uganda. He advises the Red Cross. He's the chairman, CL Summit, an adjunct faculty member of these universities, Strathmore University, Nairobi, and Lagos Business School, Sustainability Center, and I know my brother works closely with you, and also of the University of Cape Town. Now, if I have to read, I have to spend another 15 minutes. But this is a man of many colors, experience, and, of course, rich culture coming from the Republic of Uganda. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Peter Kimbowa. Thank you, Doctor. Maybe I'll be my good self and not ask questions, but ask you to do a straight presentation as to what you need us to know and hear about.
Thanks very much, Facilitator. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about retirement, but we all know that, retirement is a human concept. Organs or organisms that have been created do not retire. I'm almost certain that none of you has ever seen a snake that retired or a lion that is in retirement. So what the NSSF is doing is to recognize that when you work and time comes when you have to move on, it's actually called career transition. You are moving from one activity to another until you die. But we also recognize that the time we spend in formal employment is shorter than the time we spend outside. And that requires planning. Proper planning prevents poor performance. We also recognize that if you don't have a plan for the future will have a plan for you. And that's quite tough, especially if you are left at the hands of the future. We also recognize that when you reach age 50, it's the law of nature and the will of God that we shall grow old and eventually die. So when you reach age 50, the human body by nature becomes a battleground for non-communicable diseases. That means, therefore, that from age 50, your body becomes a battleground for things like diabetes, the things like gout, things like high blood pressure, and so on and so forth. The same human being. Those of you who are above 50 who are here, you are moving battlegrounds right now. There's coffee, there are all kinds of things. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about money which is needed to show you through that period of your life. And you retire happily, but you also pass on in this world decently. I am representing the National Social Security Fund of Uganda. This is the largest fund by assets under management. It's the biggest in East and Central Africa. As testimony of this, Uganda has been selected, NSSF in other words, has been selected as the liaison office for the International Association of all Social Security Entities. So Uganda is in charge of 13 countries. NSSF has had phenomenal growth. What NSSF has been able to achieve is to move from approximately 1.5, I don't want to use the trillion, but we have moved from $1 billion US within the last 10 years to a fund of approximately $6 billion US. Our 2030 strategy is to move the fund to $12 billion US. Now, some of you are going to ask, isn't that ambitious? No, it's not. In the age of technology, no. I was just looking at the example of India yesterday. In 1947, when India got independence, it had $30 billion US. In 1947. Now, by 2007, India's entire GDP had moved from 30 billion to 1 trillion US dollars. Now, from 2007 to 2014, India's GDP had moved to 4 trillion US dollars. Now, this is almost leapfrogging. From 2014 to 2021-22, India's economy is moving the GDP to approximately 7 trillion. This is a wonder. On account of what? On account of two things. Number one, technology. Technology can cause leapfrogging. India, during COVID, Prime Minister Modi, we were told, had to distribute money to 200 million Indians using the platform which is called UPI. India was able to reach all the 200 million Indians with 1,000 rupees within exactly 6 hours. Now, how do we do it in the fund? We have grown to a fund of 6.5 billion US dollars. We intend to make it to 12 billion. So our ambition, number one, is growth in terms of the fund. Number two is to maintain what you call a frictionless relationship with the servers. And how do we do this? Because we are measuring. Right now, we are growing the fund, but also our rating in terms of our connection with the members is approximately 84%. In terms of the turnaround time, we have got about 3 segments of our payouts. We've got the payout at age 55. We've got also the payout which is called mid-term access. When you reach age 45, you can access 25% of your savings. Now we have got more. We have got what you call the voluntary scheme. So the Ugandans in diaspora can save with the fund. Why? Because the fund is growing at a phenomenal level. We used to spend approximately 3 weeks to process benefits. We are now spending 9 days. Before 2025, we shall be taking exactly 1 day. Why? There is also leapfrogging in the process, in the turnaround time. Then we have got staff. We have got possibly the highest concentration of intellectual power of any public entity in the country. In NSSF, the biggest key skill is to be internationally certified in terms of finance and investment. In Uganda, we have a total of 40 internationally certified financial and investment analysts, a total of 40. NSSF has got 15 of them. NSSF, like Amazon, NSSF, like Alphabet, Microsoft, just like Safaricom or Equity Group, the biggest in East Africa, and pretty much the ones in West Africa. To have a degree from the university is not necessarily a requirement for a serious job. What is required is a team of talented people who have imagination. When you come for the interview in the fund, and I want to assure the Ugandans in diaspora, and even those who are not Ugandans to invest in the fund, is that the question is only, they're about just 3 questions. What is it that you see as a challenge in the fund? So take us through what you see, and that's the future. The second one is, what are your solutions? Around the 4 pillars, how we are going to grow revenue, the fund, how we are going to make sure that we have got connectivity to the member, and the third is frictionless service, and the fourth is staff satisfaction. So tell us the challenges, what we don't see right now. Give us your solutions. More importantly, tell us the impact. So the impact really is creating more opportunities for the servers, impacting communities, and also ensuring that livelihoods improve for the servers. So you die while you are still in action. Because really being broke is the same as dying. When you are broke, burial has been delayed, but death has occurred. So you die, but burial can take place later on. Ladies and gentlemen, taking the fund forward, like I've already explained, we are going to rely a lot more on what we call tech-driven data platforms. We are relying on technology to ensure connectivity, to ensure convergence and consolidation of benefits. So it's technology number one. NSSF is becoming a technology company. That's why we are talking about leapfrogging, and we have evidence of that. The country, rather NSSF, has undergone the most rigorous international due diligence. I think the nice thing is the IGG is here. The IGG has just finished with us, but there's also been the international due diligence. And the NSSF was selected among 14 countries to be the center of the social security. So in terms of that, we're probably not doing badly. Technology. So we are reshaping the investment portfolio of NSSF to create broad-based value. To be able to deliver value to savers much more than they expect. Our job is to surprise them. The second one is the savers, creating willingness and capacity of the savers. So how do we create willingness? We create willingness by ensuring that we roll out new activities and also new products. Right now, we have a number of parliamentarians present here, and we have requested that we can broaden our portfolio beyond real estate, beyond equities and government security. We can do more. Uganda is building infrastructure. There is one of the best road networks in Uganda, which is called the Entebbe Express Highway. Okay, money to build that was borrowed. NSSF had all the funds. And the return on investment is much higher than the traditional infrastructure projects as we know them. We have got another highway, which is Kampala-Jinja Highway. We're going to do that. So there are funds that can be invested in our major infrastructure projects at minimum cost for purpose of the growth of the country. So savers, we are building willingness. We are also building capacity. We are moving into the value chain. Uganda has one of the major transformation models, game changer, called the Parish Development Model. So we are going into agricultural value chains. And the agricultural value chain is going to be as comprehensive and as exhaustive as possible. We are going to start with the lowest farmer with a quarter of an acre. And we are looking at grain, first and foremost. We are looking at maize, beans, peas, sorghum, rice, and millet. So what are we doing? The farmer at the lowest level, his biggest problem is access to capital, access to money, and markets. So there's been a lot of fragmentation in terms and price distortion. So that's what we are answering the farmer at the lowest level. Now, we want that farmer to respond to a farmer who has a slightly bigger acreage. And that farmer takes charge of all the other small farmers, 100 of them, giving them advice, giving them materials, giving them fertilizers, and so on. So we are seeing increase in production, productivity, and processing, value addition in agriculture. That's what we're going to see. Now, most of you are aware, especially the Africans who are here, that when COVID broke out, you were on your own. I do remember that in Uganda, we would sit by the television and wait for the president. And what the president would say, the president of Uganda made an announcement which was very interesting. I'm not very sure that the president of Uganda knew that he was making a revolutionary statement. He said that all Ugandans with essential skills will be given permission to move. Ugandans without essential skills will stay home. What does that mean? That right now the future is about what is essential. We were left on our own in Africa. This is the time for us to mobilize domestic capital and use a phenomenally growing organization to save money. NSSF has never made laws. We simply double and double our own profit, our own dividends. So we through agriculture, and that's the only thing Uganda has. I wouldn't like some good expert to tell me that we have got oil and gas. No. Uganda's future and recovery process and transformation is going to hinge on agriculture. So the more production, the more value addition, the better. Right from the lowest level, bottom-up approach. And each farmer becomes a member of the fund. And each farmer who is a member of the fund, we have social protection. We have insurance covering that farmer. Right now, the overall coverage of insurance in Uganda, my friend, the insurer, will tell you, is probably less than 2%. Our coverage of Social Security in Uganda is 10%. We are driving that to 50% by year 2030. 50% of Ugandans will be covered in insurance. Why? Because we can reach them. We are taking on a new platform which is called UPI that will enable us, any farmer within the new value chain, to be registered. And that's why I talked about data, that we are going to mine data and we are going to enable our savers capacity and willingness to save. I do know from Africa that physical assets are very important. Your grandfather left you with the land, you need to have it, including cows. Cows, you need to wake up and look at the cows. You need to wake up and look at the land your father. But you see, it's one thing to be rich and, to have assets. You are asset rich and cash poor. That's what NSSF is responding to. So you can move from physical assets to liquid assets. There are some Ugandans here in diaspora. You can go home with the scattered land and so on. You could liquidate it and come to the fund because we have created a new product. And you keep your money there as a family pot of gold. And every month, we give you a liquidity number. So you don't have to feel so proud about the land you have got scattered around the country when you are in diaspora. And nobody is even looking at it, including your children. They will not. When you talk about creating willingness, we are talking about mindset change. That how can we move from taking wonderful pleasure and comfort because we have got idle assets. So we can convert it in liquid assets and make money for as long as you live, because when you die, that will be it. So, ladies and gentlemen, NSSF has got a long narrative. We have the best houses. My colleagues, there's a lady called Janet downstairs. NSSF has built Cape Town in Uganda in terms of residential areas. And if you can't afford, that's okay. but there are individuals who can afford. And one other thing, NSSF does not compromise on quality. No, we can't compromise on that. That's why we are becoming an internationally certified social security fund. That's why we are growing at the level we are growing. We have got the best and biggest building in Uganda. It's called the Pension Towers, with the I think they could become 3 helipads on that building. So there's growth, phenomenal growth, and we are not rolling back. We are not at all. Ugandans, it's pointless for you to be cynical about your country. And that is also Africans about Africa. No one has a solution for Africa. Africa, you are on your own. So the earlier we move towards mobilization of capital, the better. I close with this quotation. Faith is believing that something will happen. Hope is wishing that something happens. Courage is making something happen. Let's make something happen. Thank you.
Let's make something happen. Thank you very much. Dr. Peter Kimboa, Board Chairman of the National Social Security Fund.
Okay, let me hand over to, we start with the boss, then the rest will follow.
Thank you so much. On behalf of Parliament of Uganda, here represented by members of Parliament under the leadership of the Deputy Speaker, we would wish to make this session an interactive one to get feedback from you in terms of policies, in terms of laws that we have in place in Uganda. I would be more than willing to provide points of clarity on some of the areas. For those who have invested in Uganda, you have tested some of our policies, you have tested some of our laws. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What proposals would you want to draw to the attention of the Parliament of Uganda in terms of causing amendments to the existing laws and policies? So as parliamentarians, we would wish to get more of feedback and make it an interactive session. We are here to respond to more or less all points of clarity on laws passed by Parliament of Uganda. You are all aware that the Republic of Uganda is credited for having one of the best laws globally and in the continent of Africa. Now, for those who have tested our laws, we are here to get feedback from you. My name is Obua Dennis Amson, a Member of Parliament and also Government Chief Whip of the Republic of Uganda. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Martin Muzale, a Member of Parliament. I want to begin by thanking the Chief Whip, who is actually currently our lead team. As he has said it, we are here to clarify on a few aspects of your contention and also to give you information regarding our legislative arm. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Businge Harriet Mugenyi Akiki once again. I represent the people of Hoima district. When they were talking about the oil, the airport, the refinery, that is where I belong, and it is the community I represent. But basically here, personally, I want to look at how we can play into politics. We, as people in the diaspora, how do we take part? Because automatically the political climate affects how we invest and what we invest. I thank you.
Thanks very much. And I want to thank the Chief Whip and the initiator of this important forum. I'm called Charles Bakablindi. We are talking about investment. We are talking about how we can attract foreign and those who are coming back home. And when we talk about investment, we are talking about factors of production, labor, capital, and land. Of course, you are very much welcome to Uganda. Land for investment is available. And I've been hearing people talking, are your laws good? Are they employer-friendly, investor-friendly? Are they friendly to the employees? I can tell you Uganda is unique. When it comes to labor laws, the workers are represented. The employers are represented. And the government is represented. So all those concerned with that, we are in position to explain to you. Once again, you are very much welcome to our Uganda for investment.
Thank you so much. Our boss, the government chief whip. My name is Sylvia Nayevale. I'm a member of parliament from Gomba, but also I sit on the Committee of Trade and Tourism with much passion on tourism. When you talk about Uganda, definitely everyone knows it's the Pearl of Africa. And Uganda is a country to go to or to visit if you haven't visited. It's a home. Like one of the panelists said here, one thing he likes about Uganda is the welcoming smile. One thing he likes about Uganda is the climate. One thing he likes about Uganda are the good futures. And Uganda is a home of one of the most endangered species. Those who have read, Uganda has the most birds. 11% of the country's birds are in Uganda. So when it comes to tourism, Uganda is number one.
Hi, my name's Carrie Gower. I'm an agronomist. And I wanted to ask, since agriculture forms such a huge part of export for Uganda, but 41% of the soils are degraded, 12% are seriously degraded, what is the government doing to educate rural farmers on sustainable agricultural practices that means that that's going to support the agricultural development going into the future?
Thank you so much. On the issue of sustainable agriculture reforms, what we can tell you is that we've come up with the reforms in agriculture, especially one, mechanized agriculture. Two, we are looking at how to improve on our seeds. We have institutions like NADS, we have institutions like NARO. All those are doing research intended to improve on our quality of seeds and improving on the agriculture. If you go back to Uganda, you can read about NARO. It is majorly to do research on seeds. NADS is basically to see that agriculture reforms, new mechanized agriculture reforms are practiced in Uganda. So all these are basically intended to see that we improve our agriculture sector.
Okay, on the same, just supplement on what Honorable has just said, we know that land is very, very critical when it comes to agriculture. Automatically, Uganda is blessed to have very good soils, but we use the land to cultivate. What our country is doing is to make sure that our people are stable on their lands. We have laws in place to make sure that there is equitable distribution of land, especially to the weak ones, the weak gender, the weaker gender, the women, because definitely we know that it is the women who do most of the cultivation. You find that the laws in place puts into place that everybody has a right to own land, at least in Uganda, and that has been done illegally to make sure in the confines of the law, all our people can easily access land to be able to cultivate, to be able to practice agriculture. So I believe we are yet there as a country, but everything is being done to make sure that we have equitable accessibility to land ownership and land use.
Maybe if I may just add something little. You know very much that society is dynamic, it's not static. Land is not elastic. The population is increasing. We are now working on the mindset of our people. Initially, traditionally, we are not commercial. But because of these reforms, and people wanting to maximize the profits, we are coming with all changes where people have to adopt the new methodologies.
Thank you so much. Maybe just to add a little, she talked about the soils. Government is also focusing on the soil input. It is also focusing on the manufacturing of pesticides and fertilizers to enhance the fertility of soil and to enhance with the farmers.
Earlier in the year, I spent 3 weeks visiting lots of different smallholders across Uganda, and you mentioned narrow and the seed development, but a very concerning thing that I found was that a lot of people didn't understand hybrid seeds. So they were saving seeds from hybrid plants and then experiencing total crop failures. I only spoke to one farmer that understood the difference between open pollinated and hybrid seeds, and that coupled with poor soil management is causing a huge problem. And I struggled to find information on projects that were happening across the country because I was hoping to go and visit and see what was actually being done. So I was interested in how do you access that information? I did email Narrow a few times before I went, but I didn't get a response. So I just found it really difficult to find out what was actually going on, what extension services were available for rural farmers.
Thank you so much. On the issue of data concerning agriculture, my advice to the investors, we have quite a number of organizations, but most critical is Narrow, where you can have all information that has been researched on the various varieties or species in Uganda, soil composition and texture. That's where you can get all this information. Just go to Google, Narrow, you'll get everything that you want about Uganda soils, about Uganda species.
Hello, good afternoon, respected members of Parliament. My question is, what is Uganda doing to improve the skills of its workers? What are the various practical things to adapt them to the changing workplace, especially with regard to the increasing automation and various other things going on around the world? How can Ugandan workers increase their skills? Skills, yes. Skill development.
Thank you. So we have an issue on skills development and a conclusion on Carrie's question on soil and data.
Thanks very much. That's a very interesting questions about improving the skills of its workers.
The microphone closer.
About improving the skills of its workers. Of course, the government has come with a variety of approaches, including vocational institutions, whereby workers of different grades are skilled in the different sectors, and that's the way forward. And this is what has even increased on the production of labor, because we are placing people in the different categories and adding on skills and motivating them to the extent that they're even touring them now so that they can acquire the skills and be self-sustaining. And I think we are moving toward that. Not only that, when you come to the formal organizations like factories, there is regular programs of imparting new skills about the modern technologies that are working. And we as workers, this is something that we are advocating for.
On the issue of skills development, what I want to tell our potential investors here, that Uganda as a country, by the way, we have a big population that is of youths. If you want skilled labor, we have acquired it. What we can tell you is that our boys, our girls have been trained in various skills. Don't be worried in coming to invest in Uganda, because one, there are two things. One, we've got cheap labor and it is quality labor. So we have all the skills in our children, so just come and invest.
Honorable, let's use the word affordable labor. Cheap is a bit...
Okay, just thank you for the correction.
Thank you so much. Like I said, I'm passionate about tourism. I think I'll stand because people are eating, people are engaged. Uganda is known for its game viewing. It has most of the endangered species, the lions, the elephants, the mountain gorillas, and the like. And Uganda hosts most of the birds. 11% of the wild birds are in Uganda. When you talk about the rivers, when you talk about the mountains, when you talk about the good foods, when you talk about the climate, everything is good about Uganda. So I had asked them to play a small video for our investors as they come to invest. Tourism is also very pertinent, important for relaxing, for enjoying with family. Please don't get stressed in Uganda. We have a lot more to offer. With our tourism, you could watch a video, please.
Welcome to one of Africa's highest, most remote and unknown mountain ranges, located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. The Rwenzori Mountains, also known as the Mountains of the Moon, are stretched over 120 kilometers long and 61 kilometers wide. Come and experience Africa's most beautiful alpine area. With every hour and every altitude gain, the landscapes, colors and views are ever-changing. This UNESCO-protected national park contains unique biodiversity and breathtaking sceneries such as the bamboo zones, mossy heather zone, numerous waterfalls, tropical rainforest, mountain lakes, and eternal snow. Culminating at an altitude of 5,109 meters, the Margarita Peak is the highest point in Uganda and the third highest peak of the whole African continent after Kilimanjaro and Mount Kenya. This mystical and demanding mountain range is located on the foothills of Queen Elizabeth National Park, one of Africa's most popular game drives, and a few hundred kilometers from the Bwindi impenetrable forest that inhabits the endangered silverback mountain gorillas. Rwenzori Mountains offers trails for all levels of hikers, which range from 1-day to 10-day trips. The shorter trips are not as physically demanding and still showcase the amazing beauty in the art of nature, including rare vegetation, rivers, and numerous waterfalls. This unique biosphere is a true gem that needs to be preserved not only for the many endemic species it contains, but also for the local community which directly benefits and lives from the mountain's gifts. Be ready for the ultimate trekking experience. Come and discover Rwenzori, the Mountains of the Moon located in Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
So these are some of the allowable expenditures that are allowed within our income tax. Costs of sales, operating expenses, depreciation allowance, industrial building, all of these will be allowed. And very importantly, if you spend on all these and you make no profit, we will not run after you at least up to 7 years without paying tax. Strategic areas, again, I spoke about this earlier. They are listed here: education, manufacturing, transport, hotels and tourism, construction, health and medical care, agriculture, information technology, logistics and warehousing. This is not to say that other areas do not benefit from the exemptions. But for starters, if you're a developer of an industrial park, you pay zero income tax for 10 years. And the conditions for this, I already mentioned, $50 million for non-citizens, and then for the citizens, and depending on where you're investing, 300,000 US dollars, and out of Kampala, just 150,000. So this is a point to note again for Ugandans living in the UK. For all your contacts, please mobilize them to come home and invest, because if you can mobilize the capital and set up an industrial park or a tax-free zone, you can spend 10 years without paying any income tax. The same benefit is extended on those who operate industrial parks, and earlier in the panel discussions you had people who are setting up Namamve. Government invests in the infrastructure and you come and operate in an industrial park. For people who are producing for export, up to 80%, again, you are able to get a refund on the materials that you have used to produce for export, because the government is trying to attract foreign exchange through the exports you make. So 80% exports of finished goods and capital goods will also benefit from this exemption on income tax. Non-profit making organizations, when they are working for charity and for the promotion of the well-being of society, they can also qualify for income tax exemption. And of course, if you're a compliant taxpayer, you can also benefit from being on the withholding tax exemption. This means the 6% that you would pay on every import or every transaction can be paid at once when you're filing your return. Rental, I've already explained much about rental. I will not go back. Maybe to add that for non-residents who have rental properties, we withhold a final withholding tax of 15%. So if you're based in the UK, you have a property in Uganda, and you're non-resident in Uganda, and you don't want to go through the hassle of filing returns and so on, there is an option for you. You pay 15% as withholding tax, and also the final payment on that rental property. These are the points I was explaining earlier about the thresholds and the capital investments required. Stamp duty, I've also hinted on this already. You have all your instruments stamp duty free as long as you're investing in these industrial parks or you are a manufacturer in the industrial park. Hospitality, developers, I've also mentioned, if you're setting up a hospital for $5 million, you benefit from the exemption. If you're setting up a hotel for $8 million US dollars, you benefit from this stamp duty exemption. But very importantly is the point that has been made by General, maybe to lower some of these. We will look at it through a recommendation of a policy change. Excise duty is another area where you get an exemption if you're a developer of an industrial park. For all the inputs of developing that, say cement, which pays excise duty, you'll be exempt as long as the mission is to set up such. And this is just a sample of the many industries that are springing up in Uganda. So government gives you land, they give you the incentives of tax exemptions. Yours is to build the infrastructure, and no, they also provide the infrastructure. Yours is to attract investors to come and set up factories. Very, very lucrative area, especially for foreign investors. Customs exemptions, again, I will just rush through them because I had mentioned them earlier. You get exemptions on raw materials of goods for export through a duty drawback. You pay and you claim a refund at the point of export. For local products that we need, like excise bukes, there is total exemption on VAT. Duty remission for some of the strategic industries, like inputs for textiles and garments, you also pay zero rate. So there is duty remission for motor vehicle tires, batteries, and glucose syrup. These are some of the products where you don't have to pay import duties. Vehicles of the tourism sector, I mentioned that earlier, they exempt washing machines and others. The list is not comprehensive, but when you go onto our website, you will find a very comprehensive list. Briefly about VAT deferment, if you're importing any machinery for use in these industrial parks, you will not have to pay VAT upfront. You can pay it after use. And this is at the East African level. VAT deferment under Chapter 84 and 85 of the East African Community Common External Tariff exempts any importation of material of plant and machinery from import duties, and VAT is deferred. Oil and gas, this is a booming sector, a new sector in our country. And again, for almost everything that touches that sector has an exemption on VAT. We call it deemed VAT. In other words, any input that you're buying for the sector, as long as it is for the sole and exclusive use in this sector, it will be deemed that the VAT was paid, so you do not have to pay it. And that covers machinery, spares, inputs, as long as they are for the use in that sector. Under the ESC, they have been covered under deemed VAT. Now, in addition to all those exemption efforts, there are very specific administrative efforts towards attracting investment. One of them is the one-stop point center that I referred to earlier to make life easier for investors. All of us who are supposed to facilitate setting up for an investor are under one-stop point under the Uganda Investment Authority. You come to us, we will be able to expeditiously handle your issues and help you set up in the shortest possible time. As an organization, URA, we have put most of our services online to make life easy for our investors. So you can file online, you can pay online, you can make your inquiries online. Should you not find enough answers online, you can reach out to us through our client support. We have a touch point, again, where you send your requests and are handled online. And under very exceptional circumstances, if you are still not satisfied, you are still welcome to walk in. We have an open door policy to meet you and listen. Then, of course, we are trying our best to sensitize, and that's the reason I'm here. But even within the country, we are trying to reach out to the citizens to tell them their tax responsibilities and their rights, so that they are not taken advantage of because of the window of not knowing. Should you not be sure about any financial transactions and its implications, we offer free of charge private rulings on any financial or investment transactions that may attract tax. So you want to dispose a building, you may want to know, does capital gains tax apply? Does VAT apply? Write to us, we will guide you, so that by the time you enter into a contract, you know the tax implications. We do that for free, and it is to make sure that we don't jump on our taxpayer when they transacted and did not charge a certain tax because they were not sure it's applicable. Finally, we have a window for settling dispute should for any reason not agree with you on a tax matter. We call it ADR, which is Alternative Dispute Resolution. And this has paid off for some time. When we started emphasizing this window, and also opened it up to the taxpayers and came up with proper regulations, we've been able to collect money in excess of 2 trillion that was previously held in disputes in the different courts of law, which take money and which take time. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I want to remind you of the strategic sectors of government, which you can come in and invest in anytime, and you pay minimum tax, but you grow your business very quickly because they are very profitable. Commercial agriculture and agro-processing, medical services, education, tourism, oil and gas. Among the many sectors, these have stood out to be very lucrative. Whoever has set up here has not disappointed, and I'm happy there were presenters who confirmed this earlier, like Alvan Blanche and others who were confirming about the lucrativeness of these sectors, but also their experience in our country. And in terms of timing, I think this is the best time for anyone who wants to invest in Uganda, because the tax incentives are in place. The testimonies of those who have invested are here, and I'm sure you can have a one-on-one with those who are already in the country. But also, very importantly, the administrative processes are constantly improving. That is why, as a revenue administrator, I came to join this discussion to tell you that we will not be looking at you for your direct taxes. We will be looking at you for creating employment and creating purchasing power in our economy, and then we'll go for indirect taxes. But also, we are constantly benchmarking and looking at how to improve our services and our offerings to our taxpayers. So I happened to spend 2 days before this conference having discussions with our counterparts from the HMRC. Those of you who pay taxes in this country know how efficient His Majesty Customs and Revenue Service is. So we are looking and trying to learn from the best in terms of reliance on data, in terms of improvement of our services, being more polite. I think the MC earlier referred to that there are some discussions that go on. Maybe some of them in the past may not have been as polite, as smooth as you may have wanted them. But I'm here to assure you that Uganda Revenue Authority is undergoing a serious transformation, one, to improve our service offering, to promote transparency and integrity, and also to make sure that we become facilitators of investment rather than just absolute tax collectors, because we know that we will collect more tax by promoting investment. So I thank you again for the opportunity, for everything that I've shared in brief. Because of the small time that I've been allotted, you can find out more from any of these channels. Our first point of reference is our website. If you just log on to that ura.go.ug, you'll find on the first page the detail of all the incentives. The last gazette on incentives was made in 2022. You'll see what is there. If you want to find out any additional information, that is a WhatsApp call. You can go there and chat with us, and we'll give you answers. Just remember to put +256 on every call to Uganda. Sorry, that should have been included there. So +256 and that number as it is. Social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, we are all on those platforms and you can reach us. Touchpoint is working well, emails and those toll-free lines, you can reach us and we share. I thank you very much for listening to me. I thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity, and I'm ready to take any further question that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Commissioner General, thank you so much. In fact, that it's you yourself presenting, we're deeply honored. Members, questions, please. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. It was very enlightening and informative. And I just want to, not a question, but it is just sharing an experience with the URA. Sometimes back, I was doing a lot of business in Uganda, and I ended up with some unpaid taxes, which were going beyond 10 years. So anyway, that was resolved with a very good approach that URA responded with, and it was resolved, the ledger and all that. But actually, I want to give you compliments. The thing is that about 2 years ago, I got a credit note from URA, which was about 8 million, and I didn't know about it. And they did this credit 10 years ago. So, I mean, I can just applaud your integrity. You know, this is amazing, you know, this is really good. So, I haven't taken the credit yet, because they said they won't give a cash. Now, can you explain this to me? Because they said they only give a credit for my future taxes, which won't be there because I am a non-resident of Uganda. So that credit will remain with you. Can you account for it? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Any other question while Commissioner General responds to this one? Okay, there's one at the back of the room. Maybe, Commissioner, you can start responding while I walk in the room. So.
That's right. Thank you very much, my brother, for that compliment and the information. Now, your point has made me remember some two areas that I should highlight. For a long time, we've been having an issue of discrepancies in the understanding of our ledgers. How we understand the ledgers is not how our taxpayers understand them. This was as a result of technology, migration, and really something happened and our data was not that accurate. So if you're one of the people who we may have written to you demanding for taxes that were not accurate, we apologize about that. But we set in place a team about 2 years ago to review all ledgers. And it is the effort of that team that has been discovering either ungiven credit or taxes that have been due. So they go through the ledgers, they reconcile, and afterwards, if you have a credit, they inform you. If you owe us, we still inform you, but more firm about what we think you owe the organization. And this team has done a great job, so I'm happy to hear feedback from London. Now, in terms of that unreturned money, we will make ways of transferring it to accounts. We may have, acknowledged that we owe, and we have said you come and pick. Of course, when you have someone who you owe, if they don't pick, you can still use that money for something else. But with this input, let's put a channel for those who are not returning and who can give us an account and we send their money wherever they are. But the second point I wanted to mention, in these laws that have been passed this financial year, there is a waiver of interest and penalty for all those companies and businesses who owe revenue, unpaid revenue, because that has been another area of conflict. You start when you're owing like 100 million in unpaid tax, but because of the passage of time, that money attracts interest and penalties for late payment, and it becomes sometimes unaffordable. So if there is anybody in this room or people you can reach who knows that he owes Uganda Revenue Authority or the government of Uganda unpaid taxes, under the current law, and thanks to our members of parliament, there is a law which is in the Tax Procedures Code Section 40D. And this section waives all interest and all penalty for taxpayers who are willing to settle their liabilities. So anybody who knows that he owes and there is interest and penalty and maybe it has been a struggle to pay that, please approach us. The problem with this law, it has a short window of up to 31st December this year. So if you are to take advantage of this, please come before 30th December, pay your principal tax, and then the penalty and interest will be waived. Thank you for your point. It reminded me that issue.
Thank you, Commissioner. Question?
Hand
up.
Thank you, Commissioner. My question is about concessions for hybrid and electric cars for returning residents or returning citizens. Thanks.
If you don't have any question, then okay. When you say returning, is that brand new or used? Okay, just to clarify that because they mentioned something earlier.
Hi, Ray Wilburn, East African Solutions. So our company does some work sometimes opening up supply chains in and out of Uganda, and sometimes our counterparts in Uganda complain that there's sometimes inconsistencies with how things are treated at the border in terms of papers and charges. I was wondering that list that you put up there, is there a resource where it makes clear exactly what's supposed to be presented when things are moving across the border? And if there's a problem, is there like a hotline that somebody can call instead of just having to magic money out of somewhere and pay whatever is being asked for to make something cross the border?
Great question. I like the magic money portion. Commissioner, over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for those two very good questions. For returning citizens, there has already been an incentive or a law that enables you to come back home with your vehicle, which you have been using wherever you've been. The only point to take note of, please don't bring one that is older than 15 years because it will not be allowed in. That is now outlawed as contraband. If it is beyond 9 years, you can bring it, but it will pay an environmental levy because it's polluting our environment. In other words, if you have your brand new car or 1 or 2 years old, return with it, it will be received tax-free because you're a returning citizen. That is already in the law and you can take advantage of it. The only distinction is when you drive it or you get it registered, it will be having a red number plate. So wherever you meet it, you'll know this car never paid tax, but it's okay, it will be your car. If you want to sell it to another person, that person will have to move it into ordinary number plates and they will have to pay tax. So you have to own it and drive it. It's for your use. Now, if you're planning to bring an electric car or even an electric boda or motorcycle, the new law now has allowed these ones to come in tax-free. This is just to promote the green economy, as we discussed earlier. So whether you're a citizen returning or you're an investor, you'll bring these cars or bodas duty-free under the new law. Then the question by Ray of East African Solutions, I've made reference to the exemptions of customs or the law that regulates all custom duties. It is no longer Ugandan law. It is an East African law. So if you go under the IACMA, the East African Community Management Customs Act, and you read the 5th schedule, this is both online and you can find it in print. There's a comprehensive list of items that are tax-free. All items, raw materials for the different countries of East Africa that are considered strategic have been exempted under the 5th schedule. So if you read, you'll find a comprehensive list there. And again, it is your right to ask and get clear questions on the tax you are paying and for what items. So the lines that I showed there, 1, they are toll-free. 2, you'll get a response. The touch point is a very transparent form of communication, because when you send your email right from the Commissioner General to the commissioners and to the last officer, we all have visibility on what you're going through. Utilize these platforms to highlight to us any challenges that you get, because we are a young institution and we know that we are dealing with some challenges. So when you find people varying positions, maybe their intentions are not very noble. Rise through those platforms and let's deal with it as a question of discipline. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just on top of that, let me just give a bit of a reference, and I'm going to plug Private Sector Foundation in this picture. If you remember many years ago, those of you who remember Uganda, we used to have the traders downtown strike very often. They no longer strike for a very interesting reason. Through PSFU, they can get to Commissioner General anytime, right? So all trade issues that have been happening are resolved before they even become an issue. So that's testament that there is a communication channel. But secondly, you can become a member of PSFU and the channel becomes even faster. Anyway, that's a plug. We'll talk later. The Commissioner, we had a question on electric. Does the law cover hybrid vehicles as well? Is that a yes?
Yes, it is. Electric and hybrid.
So if I bring myself a hybrid, it's zero tax.
It is.
Okay. Then the other question I have, Commissioner, in the morning we talked about, I think, the industrial parks. And you talked about the differences if I'm a foreigner investing, the minimum, and then if I have a partnership. Can you just elaborate that one very quickly, because there's something I wanted to build on to.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and for very quick clarification on the issue of returning citizens, there is one small condition which I should have mentioned, otherwise you'll run into trouble if you don't fulfill it. You need to have owned this car for at least a year. Okay? So you're a returning citizen, you want to bring your vehicle duty-free, make sure you've owned it and the ownership is evidenced in your logbook for at least 12 months. Anything short of that, you will not get the exemption. And you know the reasons why the law is that strict. So if your friend says, bring me a car and you buy it tomorrow and you put it on the boat, then you won't get that exemption benefit. Now, very quickly, Comrade, you asked a question on
the industrial parks. You mentioned
yes,
in the morning
on
about
the
the 5 million and the different.
Just flip back and present that slide. It's one of the beginning slides where there are some requirements. I want to quote them as they are under the law.
While they're bringing back, my vehicle being that from what I saw, my basic, that if somebody partnered with a Ugandan, the minimum requirement would be lower.
That's right. I just wanted to quote the exact figure because for some investments, it's $10 million for Ugandan, where the foreign investment will pay 50 million, and that is for the industrial park. Please go ahead to the area of incentives. So as they bring up that slide, if you are involved in the development of an industrial park and you are a citizen, your minimum requirement is $10 million in terms of capital investment. The other requirements are 70% of raw materials, where they are available. If they are not, you can definitely use imported, and also 70% for employment. Now, if you're... Sorry, there is a problem with that. I would quote it from my head then. Then, if you are a citizen and you are involved, please go ahead. Ahead, please. Okay, ahead. Furthermore. There, first stop there. Just step one. Okay, so minimum investment of $10 million for foreigners and 300,000 for citizens, or 150 again for citizens. Investments up country will make you benefit from the VAT exemption. But if you step behind one slide back, you'll see the income tax requirements. No, further back. There. Okay, so for further back, sorry. Back again. Further back, sorry. Okay, I seem to be lost in my own slide. But there is another one which requires the investment to be $50 million for a foreigner and $10 million for a citizen. So what does this mean? If you want to take benefit of the citizenship, this is the one I was looking for. Thank you very much. Okay, so for a developer of an industrial park, minimum investment is going to be $50 million. But for a citizen, the minimum investment is 300,000 again and 150 for any East African citizen. So if you want to take advantage of this, you can either register your company as local and you take benefit of this window, but you can also come in on your own. The threshold will be higher. So it really, I think this law is flexible to benefit partnerships like from the UK. If you're a Ugandan citizen and you manage to get a partner here and you convince them to come and set up an industrial park in Uganda, all you need to invest is $300,000 for Kampala, or 150 if it's outside Kampala. And the registration details are legal. I think you have to have a certain share for the company to be considered to be local or for it to be considered foreign. The lawyers will guide you. But this is a window that you can take advantage of through partnering with the locals to have a lower threshold. But if you want to set up an industrial park, big in terms of the factories it can accommodate, then you can as well walk it alone through the $50 million US dollars investment. I don't know if that answers you.
That does. It was a question that I got from the floor earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. As part of the previous panel, we're supposed to have had Otto Cannon, UK representative, World Sustainability Organization. Cannon, we have this window for you to do your presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the UK rep, World Sustainability Organization, Mr. Otto Cannon. A round of applause, please.
I bring you special greetings from my boss, Paulo Bray, who's the founder and executive director of Friends of the Earth, Friends of the Sea, World Sustainability Organization. Before I commence, I want to warmly commend the organizers of this laudable event. In recent years, there's been a fast rise in population across the world and specifically in Uganda. According to the United Nations, we can see from my slides that the current population of Uganda is about 49 million. And when there's a rise in population, there's always an exponential increase in consumption. And consumption affects our land, affects our sea, in our strive for food. So Uganda is blessed with arable land, fertile land for farming. And the statistics show that one of the highest exports out of Uganda is coffee. One of the speakers on the just concluded panel said that on the global scale, Uganda ranks about 8th, 9th of coffee producers and exporters. But from my scale, we see that according to the International Coffee Organization, Uganda is ranked 7th in the world. A round of applause for Uganda for that. That's a big deal. When it comes to coffee production, Uganda is ranked 7th. But you see that with the size of land used to farm coffee and cocoa, on my previous slide, you see that Brazil topped the chart. And with regards to the size of land, Uganda uses far more plots of land to farm coffee and cocoa. Which means that when a large portion of land is used, automatically there will be deforestation. So you see, Brazil produces far more than Uganda in terms of output, in terms of yield, but Uganda uses far more plots of land to farm. On this slide, you see that the yield produced, that's the yield in terms of quantity and quality. Brazil is still far ahead. Brazil and Vietnam, they are far ahead on the scale, considering that Uganda made it to the top 10 of cocoa and coffee producers. There would still be somewhere around top 10, but this is a chart that shows the top 5. I want us to pay close attention to this slide. I wish I had a pointer, so I'll point specifically on the graphs I'm talking about. But if you pay close attention, you'll see that there's a change in coffee production. And on the first country, which is Brazil, you see that they had a growth. Please, I want us to pay attention because this slide is very important. You see that on the first country, Brazil, there was a rise in coffee production. When you look at the last country on that scale, on that slide, you see that Uganda also had a rise, which is credit to Uganda. We know that, of course, Uganda has set for themselves a goal to increase and improve on their coffee production. And this categorically shows that they are winning on that. When you look at the second line, you see change in coffee harvest area. Brazil reduced the size of land they used to farm. But you see, Uganda increased. So the higher yield Uganda gets in coffee production, it automatically means that they'll use more size of land. And you agree with me that the more the size of land, the more deforestation would occur. I will just quickly run by. According to the National Forest Authority, Uganda has the 3rd highest deforestation rate in the world. Uganda has lost 41.6% of its forest cover. And these are some of the social, economic, and environmental challenges faced by Uganda. Because there's been deforestation, we automatically have loss of biodiversity. Some of the speakers that spoke earlier on talked about the beautiful, vast array of animals, ecosystem, biodiversity. I can see one of the banners, one of the backdrop banners shows the beautiful animals. But when there's deforestation, automatically there will be loss of biodiversity, and we don't want that to happen. There's been soil erosion and degradation of water quality and supply. I will just quickly run by, but there's been a lot of challenges in recent times. initiative to increase yield and reduce environmental impact. I was speaking with one of the exhibitors downstairs, and he talked about eco-friendly fertilizers, organic fertilizers. That is one of the measures to take to increase yield, reduce environment impact, and most importantly, which is why I'm here, is eco-friendly labels, eco-labels. So eco-labels basically shows that your product and your process, your manufacturing process, is adhering to all the environment standards, adhering to all the production standards. And as much as there are several certifications, some of these certifications and eco-labels look out for quality, which is quality control. Some look out for deforestation. Some look out for the kind of fertilizer you use. But ours encompasses all of this. While studying, I realized that Uganda exports 65% of its coffee and cocoa to Europe alone. Most of the Ugandans and the farmers here would agree with me. 65% of Uganda's coffee goes to Europe. And recently, there's been a law. It's big in Europe and America. It's still developing in other parts of the world. But considering that Uganda sells 65% of its coffee and cocoa to Europe, it's very pertinent that Uganda producers and farmers here to eco-labels. So the law imposes that any product, any brand that is affecting the forest, that is directly or indirectly leading to deforestation, would not be imported, would not be sold, and if any product of such makes its way into Europe, the producers will be sanctioned. You see that America, which is a gray-colored circle, and Europe, which is a green-colored circle, are very big with this policy right now. Other parts of the world are still following. And there's a lot of these eco-labels. There's several. You see, some are for organic, some for forestry, wildlife, water, CSR, that's corporate social responsibility, some for forestry. But the beautiful thing is that some stand out, some encompasses all of these things. I spoke to some of the producers behind and they say, oh, well, I've got this label already. Someone said he's got a label for quality control and he felt that would cover for it. I told him, no. There's a lot of things to look out for, a lot of benchmarks, a lot of indices, and these are some of the labels that stand out globally. They've been verified, licensed, accredited by the international accreditation bodies and the national accreditation bodies. I'm speaking of friends of the earth. The benefits are numerous. Because of time constraint, I won't really go into that. But I think realizing the fact that our label, our certificate cuts across all the indices, all the benchmark, all the yardsticks that are looked out for, it's very pertinent that every producer, every farmer, every exporter right here present should consider having friends of the earth. All of these are the benefits. I would implore you all to consider it. I will be looking out for your questions. I'll be looking out to talk to you. But one thing I want to leave you all with, which is something my boss is very big on, is the fact that 30% of our budget and profit goes into advocacy, sensitization, conservation projects all over the world. We have multiple projects: Save the Forest, Save the Rhinos, Save the Elephants. That's because we are very concerned, very passionate, very committed to seeing that beyond profit making, this issue of sustainability becomes a lifestyle, becomes a culture. Because a lot of people, since these laws have been made, we should just know that it's what has to be done. And I'll leave you with a phrase my boss always uses. He says, sustainability is not about living with less. It's about living at a balanced level. It's about replacing what we can replace and leaving the world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It is quite a task to be following the great Dr. Peter Kimbua. I can never top that, so anything I say is going to seem very minor compared to what the distinguished gentleman has shared with us today. And I would like to acknowledge everyone who has attended, from our honorable MPs to the Commissioner General, to the Director of Immigration, and all protocol observed. If you forgive me, just to save some time. I'm here on behalf of MTN Uganda and MTN Mobile Money. We are proudly affiliated with the convention and the establishment that Mr. Willy Mutenza has put together over the years that celebrates the camaraderie and the power of togetherness of Ugandans in the diaspora, a very communal trait that we have as a nation and as a people. And I think we also bleed the same at MTN Uganda and MTN Mobile Money. Why are we here? Just to cut to the chase. We provide, as MTN, we provide customers in Uganda a service that is highly scarce compared to where you would have here in the UK or any other Western economy, and which is basically access to financial services. Not many Ugandans have a bank account. Not many can afford to have access to a bank account, as well as benefit from any other services that may come from a traditional financial institution. That's the gap that we as MTN Uganda and MTN Mobile Money are coming in to address. Providing customers with the ability of a digital wallet, which is a mobile money wallet, they're able to then access these services, which would extend from just your usual send money peer-to-peer, but also advanced financial services such as payments, credit, savings, and even investments. We provide that. Why we are here today is because we believe that the partnerships with many of the people and companies in the diaspora feed into that narrative, because there's a lot of money that is remitted back home, and we are a major channel for that. Listed on our billboards, as you see, and all the advertising, we have our partners. I urge you to go to those locations, have a look for yourself, and see what they're all about. They serve millions and millions of customers who want to send or remit money back home. That has always been a challenge from a traditional sense. If you had to walk into a shop or walk into a branch to send money physically back home, you had to carry that money physically, you had to put it in, you had to put in the details. On the other end, the recipient had to do the same thing. They had to walk, probably spend some extra money on the transport to get there, so it actually costed them a lot more money to retrieve the money that was sent to them. With mobile money, that is no longer the case. That money goes directly to the customer's digital wallet, and it is very instant. There are no if, buts, or maybes. As soon as the sender on this side, using the website or the app, says send, in a matter of less than a minute, the amount is credited on the digital wallet at the recipient. Whether that's 2 a.m. in the morning for an emergency, or first thing in the morning if somebody has run out of money to go to work or whatever it may be. But we provide such an instant, convenient service. And we believe many of the activities that happen in the diaspora, people want to, as the distinguished doctor said, they want to plan for their retirement. We provide a channel for channeling money back to your domestic or your plans back home. They're going with the technology. NSSF is another company that has adopted technology. We are a driver of technology. We believe that partnerships that we have done, not just with NSSF, but even with the banks and also other investment partners, has helped us extend our reach to customers who can actually go back, who can actually send money back home instantly and conveniently. So that is why we're here. We believe we are just another cog in this big machine that moves money back home, that's looking at development, that is also looking at financial inclusion, which is a big mandate of the global sustainable development goals. So that's why we're here, and we are happy to participate in this discussion. Please, if you have a minute today, tomorrow as well, we are in the exhibit hall. As soon as you get in, you just turn to your right. You can't miss us. It's a big yellow sign that says MTN Mobile Money. Thank you for this time, and I thank you for allowing us to be part of this distinguished occasion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And as Oliver will say, we'll ask for more. Next year, we're expecting you on board. Once again, let me remind you that the 14th UK-Uganda Trade and Investment Summit will be happening in the year 2024 on the 6th of September. So if you see the Scan Me in your brochure or anywhere around, scan and register now, because next year we are coming back. At this time, I will call the Honourable Ubua Dennis, Government Chief Whip, Parliament of Uganda, to give us the closing remarks. A round of applause, please. Thank you.
God is good and all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities, I wish to adopt the morning protocol. To every start, there is an end. To every entry, there is an exit. It is time for us to exit. But before we exit, let me take this opportunity on behalf of the government of the Republic of Uganda and all delegates from the Republic of Uganda, from different ministries, departments and agencies of government, to thank the organizers of the 13th UK-Uganda Investment and Trade Summit 2023 for inviting us to come and discuss, to come and network, to come and widen, to come and deepen, and to come and unlock the barriers to trade and investment. From the morning through to this afternoon, and now this evening, from the different presentations made, from the different interactive sessions that we have had, I am quite confident that if there is anyone who entered this room in the morning doubting the investment climate in Uganda, you have been answered by the different presenters from within and without Uganda. To those who are already doing business and investing in Uganda, I wish to say on behalf of government of Uganda, thank you for coming to Uganda. To the potential investors, to the prospective investors, I wish to make a clarion call to you on behalf of our chief torchbearer and the chief mobilizer on matters of trade and investment. And this is none other than the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, I wish to give you 4 points of assurance. 1, a stable political climate and environment in Uganda for you to come and invest, and we welcome you. Secondly, as alluded here by various presenters and discussants, very, very favorable investment policies and laws that we have put in place. And this is manifested by the fact that the keynote speaker in this 13th convention was none other than the Right Honourable Deputy Speaker of the Parliament of Uganda, who came along with a team of members of Parliament to give you that assurance that even areas where you intend to have the laws amended, we are ready as a Parliament to do that. Assurance number 3, you have the supportive mechanism of our National Development Plan number 3. And I am happy that this is superintended over by the National Planning Authority of the Republic of Uganda. All we are discussing are falling within the framework of our National Development Plan. Finally, the manifesto of the ruling party, and that is the National Resistance Movement, supports trade and investment, and we will continue to support it, especially the manifesto for the period 2021-2026. Finally, the return on investment is assured when you invest in Uganda. With these few words, once again, I salute and congratulate the organizers of this convention. I also wish to appeal to fellow countrymen and women in the diaspora that when we come, we are ready to engage and to be engaged. And for us to engage and be engaged, it is important that we engage ourselves in a formal discussions like the one we have had from morning through the afternoon to this evening. So when we come, feel free. I feel at times unhappy to see the flag of Uganda with some people outside. If you want to engage us, we are here. 360 degrees we can engage even tonight till morning. As long as you have an opportunity, I have an opportunity in a free atmosphere to talk. As Ugandans, our country is bigger than all of us. There is no any better country than Uganda. A country gifted by nature. A country named the Pearl of Africa by none other than the Prime Minister of this great country where we are. So welcome to Uganda. Uganda is our home. We do not have a second choice. Our first choice is Uganda. Our second choice is Uganda. Our third choice is Uganda. If there is an opportunity for a fourth choice, my fourth choice will still be Uganda. God bless you for God and my country. Thank you so much. I now declare the 13th UK. Ladies and gentlemen, by virtue of the authority entrusted upon me as a humble servant to deliver the keynote address and the closing ceremony, I now take the opportunity on your behalf to declare the 13th UK-Uganda Investment and Trade Summit 2023 officially closed and invite you in advance to the 14th convention on the 6th of September here in the city of London. For God and my country, God bless you all.
My name is Daniel O. Sufrimpong, Executive Director of Cayman Sterling Limited. I had the honor of serving you this day at this convention, and I want to once again invite you the 6th of September 2024 here in the City of London. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. And my name is Badrun Tege, obviously a board member of Private Sector Foundation. And it was an honor and pleasure to have you all here. Thank you so much. NSSF, can you join us for the picture? Latima, PSFU, can you come and join us for a picture, please? Mr. Mugabe. Louis, we cannot have a presentation with a picture without you. You are our main host.